Now this class I have quite the story about. Frost Mage is something that I have played since the game first came out in 2004, and I've stuck with Frost Mage for years. So Frost Mage has been my thing on YouTube, like, I've played this class forever, okay? And I've also had a lot of opportunities to see it develop throughout Legion and see the direction that it's going, and I feel that there's a lot of different changes, and if I were to label it in some fashion, if I were to give it a name for the class like I have been for my other class overview videos through, like, you know, the insane Shadow Priest class or all that kind of stuff, I would call this class, the control caster of World of Warcraft Legion, because of its ability to really disable mostly melee, but other enemies in general from using their class, right? So that's really what control means, is just being able to make someone not play the game, make them to, you know, they could go outside, they could like take a shot, they could go walk the dog, they could cook some food, whatever, because it doesn't matter since you're going to be CCing them, right? And that's really what I would label this class as. So I want to talk a little bit about the damage before we go into the CC, because the damage is something that has been wildly changed over the past few months, and especially the past few weeks since the new addition to the new ability Flurry, which slows the target for 1 second and gives you that chance to, you know, do frozen damage for 1 second for like one cast. I've noticed that these two abilities have been, or these two PvP talents have been changed so much in the last couple of weeks. It was 200% whenever, let me at least explain what Deep Shatter is before I start talking about the changes. Deep Shatter is meaning whenever you freeze a target, right, and get that shatter off, that frozen amount of damage will do 200% more with your Frost Bolts, but it disables your abilities from generating Fingers of Frost, so you don't necessarily generate Ice Lance procs as much, but you do a lot more damage with your Frost Bolts, and this is considered standard in Legion PvP for Frost Mage, okay? Now, the next thing is Ice Form, okay? So this used to be 50% damage increased for your Frostbolt and make you immune to stuns and knockback effects for 12 seconds. It replaces Icy Veins and gives you a 45-second cooldown, offensive cooldown, that gives you 30% increased damage for Frostbolt. This used to be 50% increased, but now it's gone down. I think that I see the problem with the damage, and I've seen why this ability, this passive, was 300% increased damage, and now it's back to 200% where it originally was when the ability was first created. And these two abilities, I feel, are getting nerfed because people are playing Glacial Spike. Okay, so Glacial Spike is a completely new ability in the game. It's one of those abilities that whenever you stack up those icicles, your mastery, so if I Frostbolt, right, on a Frost Mage, you're going to stack up one icicle. Okay, so an icicle is something that stores 39% of my Frostbolt damage into a little icicle that hovers over my head, and you can have up to 5 of them. Okay, so Glacial Spike, however, what it does is when you get 5 icicles, okay, so I've got 5 now, whenever I get 5 icicles, I can cast this big Glacial Spike ability, and what it does is it's supposed to do a lot of damage and also root the target for 4 seconds, and that root does not actually break with any damage, so it's just like a static 4-second root. The problem is that whenever these two did, you know, whenever this was 50% increased damage and this was 300% increased damage, those Frost Bolts would hit for like 400 to 500k. Now, if you store up 40% of 500k 5 times, or 3 times at least, like you're looking at least 1 million crit, right? Which is really unhealthy for the game. So that's why I see these being nerfed, is just because of Glacial Spike. I feel like if this wasn't in the game, which the PvP developers probably don't have any say whether Glacial Spike gets removed just because it one-shots people, they probably just have to tune around the PvP talents, and this is the outcome of that, okay? So, you know, the damage is cool, but it's really not that high. I've noticed that, like, Fire Mage, everybody's playing Fire Mage right now, and Fire Mage just destroys Frost Mage in terms of damage. But Frost Mage does have its opportunities. I feel that Frost Mage damage is probably about a 6.5 to 7 out of 10, whereas a Fire Mage would be like a 9 to 9.5, and a Demon Hunter would be a 10, and an Outlaw Rogue would be a 10. Okay, so just to get that all out there and have some comparisons for you guys. But let's talk a little bit about the control. The control is the big point of the class, of the spec at least, in my opinion, for PvP. The main thing is that you have 2 spell schools. So you have Polymorph, which is on the Arcane tree, which means if you get interrupted, you can still cast Frost spells. And you can also play with Ring of Frost, which is the same outcome of a CC for you know, if you were to polymorph someone to Ring of Frost them, it does the same thing. Makes them lose control of their character for 8 seconds or 7 seconds or whatever it is. And then the thing is if you get interrupted on that, right? So boom, interrupted, I can actually just Frost Nova in place and then Ring of Frost. And that's really like how it works. That's how you have an advantage over most classes, because like if you think of a Moonkin, for example, they just have Cyclone and that's it, right? So they get interrupted on Cyclone, they're not CCing something, whereas you can, okay? And Frost Mages, for the standard spec at least, is that you have a ton of ways to slow the target. Every single ability you do pretty much slows or roots the target. Your Frost Bolts slow the target by 30%. Your Ebon Bolt slows them, obviously, just like a Frost Bolt does. Your Flurry slows by 70%, Cone of Cold slows by 70%, you get it. Like, everything slows targets, and it makes it really healthy for healers to be able to run away from melee classes, and Frost Mage really does accomplish that control-based thing that other classes can't normally do. Especially since Frost Nova and Ice Nova are roots, and I feel like roots and Legion are a lot more relevant than in Warlords of Draenor, because you would see like a bunch of dispels, you could see like a bunch of outs for melee, like they could just get out of things really quickly. And you know, in Legion, I feel that that isn't quite the case, and those huge amounts of slows and that enormous amount of roots through Glacial Spike, through Frost Nova, through Pet Nova, through Ice Nova, as well as having 2 schools to control somebody, allows for a lot of different types of CC, even with the removal of Deep Freeze in this expansion. I feel that Deep Freeze wasn't exactly a healthy version of the game, because it was just like a point-click 5-second stun that you could just use on a healer and then sheep him afterwards, and there was nothing they could do about it. There was no counterplay, there was no available defensive cooldown aside from PvP Trinket or like Divine Shield or something, which really isn't worth it because Divine Shield, or I mean Deep Freeze is on the 30-second cooldown. So if that's being removed, it's fine. I think that polymorphs are easy to get off when you have Shimmer. It's like definitely possible. And I think that overall this class does, you know, bring a lot of CC to the table. Like, for real, it really does. I just think that the damage needs to be tuned a little bit more. I think that we need a little bit more damage for Frost Mage to be like in complete balance, but I think that it's really looking healthy. I think that it's moving in the right direction. Pretty much ever since you were able to combo your abilities together in order to like use your Ice Nova after your Frost Bolt in order to get a frozen Frost Bolt, right, and those shatter. Anyways, guys, I'm gonna have some arenas for you in just a second. It's gonna show some 2s and some 3s so you can get an opinion of it throughout the entire arena on your own. I definitely want you guys to check that out, so here we go.
Here's a release from our 5-year anniversary album. Finally being released, this is Blackout by Pegboard Nerds. This is another release from our 5-year anniversary album. Here's Stonepack and Emil with Lift You Up.
Alright guys, that does sum it up for me today. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to give a big thumbs up on this video as always, and you can check out my other class overviews. And you can also find my top 5 favorite classes on my website, which is linked in the first line of the description. You can also subscribe to my channel for future videos that come out, other class overviews, duels, arenas, and a bunch of other random stuff that I like to do on my channel. So I hope you did enjoy, and I will see you all in the next one. Cartoons out.